Welcome to My Jane, My Story, the only show that enables women to share their own secrets and insights to wellness, one story at a time.
Thanks, Paul. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this beautiful Thursday afternoon. This is Diane McConaughey here at My Jane. And to tell you a little bit about My Jane, our mission is to help you own your wellness through community, education, and exploration of cannabis solutions. And we look at addressing the biggest health concerns such as sleep, pain, and stress. So we aim to do whatever we can to help women or anybody of the community to find these great solutions to alleviate these wonderful things that we deal with all the time. There is so much information out there, and we decided that we needed to come together and share stories of these real life experiences dealing with cannabis and health and wellness in general, so we can be better and do better and help one another. So we are sharing stories today, and I'm welcoming all of you here today, and I'm so excited about our guest that we have. She is somebody that I met a couple of years ago, and I'm so happy to have her here to tell her cancer story. This is Allie Becher. Welcome, Allie. Thank you for being here today.
Hi, Diane. Thank you for having me.
So tell everybody a little bit about yourself. Tell us where you're from. Tell us your background. Let's get to know Allie.
Okay, well, I'm originally from Southern California. I grew up here and been here most of my life. A few years ago, I moved, kind of followed my family to Oregon. They all moved up there, and
Oh, nice.
yeah, we're a close family, so a lot of us are there, and the rest are trying to get there. I work as a respiratory therapist in a hospital, and yeah.
So that keeps you busy. And how was it moving from California to Oregon for you?
It was definitely a change.
I imagine.
There's actually seasons in Oregon. We have fall, winter, spring, and summer.
Oh, it's not just rain? It's not just a rain season?
No, we do get snow as well in Oregon.
wow.
Depending on where you are, there you can get a lot of snow, and it's just a much slower pace of life in Oregon.
Oh, I bet. And you said a couple years ago you've been there, right? So it's
Yeah,
been
a couple years.
Did it take you a while to unwind from the crazy, busy Southern California madness, or did you notice it right away?
No, I noticed it. I noticed it right away. And, I would frequently travel back and forth for work. And I noticed when I would be in Oregon, I would have that mindset. I'd be like, okay, this is a much calmer way of life. And then when I came back to California, especially when I had to drive on the freeway, I'm like, all right, get out of my way. So when I'm in California, I'm California. And when I'm in Oregon, I'm Oregon.
It's like turning on that different, road rage, right? I don't want to say road
Exactly.
rage, but it is kind of crazy out here. And
It's very crazy.
I would know. I've only been from here, so I'm sure it's a big difference somewhere else.
Yes.
Well, great. Well, tell us a little bit about your cancer journey, if you don't mind. I know that you have quite a story that I want everyone to hear. So
I do. So when I was actually 18, I noticed that there was something wrong with like this spot on my face. And I went to the doctor, and they told me I was being self-conscious and that there was nothing wrong. So I believed them. But then 3 years later, the same spot was still there, and it was bothering me, and I felt like it was growing. So I had actually started my junior year at Sonoma State University, and I went to a doctor there, and I said, look, this has been bothering me for 3 years, and no one seems to think anything is wrong.
wow.
But that doctor said, well, I don't think there's anything wrong either, but we'll biopsy it. We'll see what we're dealing with.
Okay.
So he biopsied it and called me and said, you have a really rare form of melanoma. And most people think of melanoma as a lot of exposure to the sun.
Right.
But you can actually get it from no exposure to the sun, which was what mine was. And it was a cancer that usually affected 60-year-old men.
And you're 21 at this time.
I was 21, but the
Wow.
original tumor showed up when I was 18.
Wow.
So there was like a 1,000% that I was going to get this kind of cancer. So
Wow.
at that time, I had surgery to remove it. And then it was pretty deep because it had been growing for 3 years. So
And whereabout you said it was on your face. Whereabouts on your face was it?
it was like my cheekbone,
Oh, okay.
left cheekbone.
Yeah.
So it was deep. It left a really big scar. And then after that, they wanted to do radiation, and they said that if they did that, it would most likely never come back. So I said, okay. So I did radiation kind of to the head and neck.
Wow.
And
how many radiation treatments did you have to go through?
I did a month of like high dose radiation.
Okay.
Yeah. And I lost only hair on half of my head, so I shaved my whole head at that time because it's ridiculous to have one full side of hair.
Be the half side rocker and
exactly. So I shaved my head, and
wow.
and then I was fine.
And how? I mean, you're in college.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going through this. I can't even imagine what this was like to go through it at such a young age. When you're thinking of, all you're thinking about is your future at this point. I mean, how was that for you?
It was definitely hard. And like I said, I had transferred. My family was in Southern California and I was in Northern California.
Yeah.
So it was really hard. I didn't know anybody at my new school.
Wow.
But luckily I had a wonderful roommate. And then when I was sick, she would like make me dinner, and they were always there for me. So that was great, having that little family up there. And then my family would come when they could, and my mom took me to the surgery, and I had friends that would take me to the radiation appointments.
Oh,
so
good.
I built a little community up there.
And were you able to still study? I mean, were you having to, to take a hiatus from classes, or?
I think I took an incomplete in one class, but I
Yeah.
finished it within like 2 months. I went to a very small school, so my professors were amazing. I actually had one that she's like, if you can't get to class, just do the reading, and I will come to your house like after, and we can discuss what you read, and you can
good.
submit your stuff that way.
Nice.
But I didn't miss too many of my classes.
Oh, well, that's good. Because you never, I mean, going through that kind of treatment, you never know how you hear so many different stories of, it didn't really affect me, or, I just couldn't even get out of bed. So I'm glad to hear that you were able to rest, but you could still kind of function and do what you needed to do. So, wow.
Yeah, it was, it was hard, but it wasn't that hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, and then fast forwarding. So this was, you're 21, you go through radiation treatments. They tell you that it's not going to come back. And then at that point, what happened?
So, they said like once you hit the 5-year cancer-free mark, you're really good. And once you hit the 10-year mark, like no way it's coming back.
Yeah.
So I hit the 10-year mark, and then I noticed in my jaw some swelling, and it was hurting really bad. So I went to the doctor, and that doctor told me there's no way it's your cancer. I would know if your cancer were back. It's been 10 years. It's just not possible.
Is this the same doctor that you saw previously?
No,
This is
because
a
I
different
had
doctor.
moved back to Southern California at that point.
Okay.
So this was a new doctor. So I said, oh, okay, I'm going to trust,
Yeah.
your years of experience.
Yeah, of course.
So he told me that it was probably like a secondary infection. I guess you can get that from the radiation treatment. So
Wow.
he gave me antibiotics, and I think 2 or 3 weeks later, the mass wasn't getting any smaller, and it was still hurting a lot. So I called him. I said, I need you to order a scan. The antibiotics didn't work. This thing is still here. It's growing, and I need to know what this is. So he ordered it, and then he called me and said, you're right, there is a mass there. We need to do a biopsy. So I think a couple of weeks later, they did a biopsy, and then they called me and confirmed that it was a recurrence of the cancer. And when I got that call, I remember exactly where I was, and I just dropped to the floor and started crying, because I was in the medical field at that point, and I knew that if it comes back, and just the way that it came back, that it wasn't good news.
Right.
So they said, we're going to do, we have to do like a radical surgery on your face. And what they wanted to do was take everything off of my face. They were going to take the skin, the bones. So I was basically going to be a skeleton on the left side. And I asked the doctor, I said, if you do that, can you 100% guarantee that it will never come back again? And he's like, I can't guarantee that. So I said, I want you to preserve everything that you can. So they did this second surgery, and they took out the tumor. It was huge, and it grew really fast the second time around. The first time it grew really slow, but when it came back, it was just like taking over half of my face.
Wow, gosh. I mean, were you getting headaches? And I mean, can imagine, having that in your jaw and in your face. Were you able to see? I mean, were you having other issues at that point?
I wasn't. And one of the things they found when they did the surgery, the doctor said, I don't know how you've been blinking because the tumor had completely wrapped around the nerve that was leading to my eye, and they had to take that out, and they had to put an implant in my eyelid so I can blink. So I can't blink on my own. I have a gold bar in my eyelid. So it was, we all knew it was bad, but once they got in there and, saw everything that was going on, it was like kind of even worse than they thought.
Yeah.
It was about a 12-hour surgery.
Wow.
But he preserved everything he could. He was an amazing doctor, and he listened to what I wanted, even though all of his colleagues were saying, no, you just need to take everything.
Yeah.
So
Well, you knew what you wanted too. You knew what you needed. So it's good that you spoke up and said, let's do it this way.
yeah, and
This
I'm
is
just
what I feel comfortable with.
I'm just
Yeah.
glad they listened.
Yeah.
So then after the surgery, they decided to do chemo. So I
Okay.
did chemo for a year. The first month you go like 4 hours a day, 5 days a week for an
Wow.
infusion, and that was just miserable.
Wow.
And I had a bad reaction the first day, and a couple other times I got it. It's like having like the worst case of the flu for a whole year.
Oh, wow.
And then the next 11 months, you give yourself shots 3 times a week. So I did that, but coming up on the end of the chemo, I developed a cough, and I'm a respiratory therapist, so I knew something was amiss. So I went to my oncologist at the time. I said, hey, I have this cough, and they're like, no, it's probably nothing. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay. So I finished the chemo, and I was fine for 2 months, and then it came back in my lungs.
The cancer did.
The cancer did after I stopped the chemo. Came back in both of my lungs, and
Had they shown that the cancer was gone from from the spot on your face?
it was gone from
That
the
was
spot on my
gone.
face, but it had metastasized to the
Wow.
lungs, bilateral lungs.
Wow.
And they,
And this was after basically a year of chemo, and then the 11 months of doing the shots. So this is after 2
Yes.
years.
yeah.
Wow.
So it came back to the lungs. So the cough was actually because I had tumors in my lungs, and they told me, okay, we're going to start you on this new treatment, and you're going to be coming, this many days a week. And I said, okay, great. I'd like another opinion. So please give me your notes on everything we've talked about. So I got the notes, and the doctor didn't tell me that he was scheduling me for palliative chemo, which basically means they're going to make you comfortable until you pass. So he didn't tell me.
He had already given up on you before.
He didn't tell me that I was dying, or he thought that I was dying, and he wrote that I had a poor prognosis.
And you're a respiratory therapist, so you know the lungs, wow.
Yeah, so at that point I made a decision. I said, I'm not staying with this company anymore. I'm going to go find somebody that will help me. So I went to a new doctor. My sister is an oncology nurse, and she asked her doctor friends, where should she go? Like, she's lost all hope.
Yeah.
Send her to somebody that will help her. So they sent me to the right guy, and he said, well, there's this new treatment, and we'll start you on that. And I said, okay. So they started me on it, and it was rough.
How are you emotionally feeling at this point? I mean, I can't even imagine. It's like a treatment here, treatment there. Let's try this. Let's try that. I can't imagine how that's, in your mind.
It was really hard. And
Yeah.
I remember before each treatment would start, well, I think maybe after the second treatment, I was like, I'm not doing anything else. I'm
Yeah.
tired of feeling sick. Nothing is working. Like, just please stop.
Yeah.
But I didn't. And
Yeah.
I don't know why, but
And I'm glad you
just,
didn't. You knew.
So that second treatment, there was a period where 2 weeks I lost about 20 pounds.
Wow.
And I'm already thin to begin with, so
Yeah.
20 pounds was a lot. I was like a walking skeleton.
Wow.
But the treatment was working, but they couldn't give it to me anymore because it was going to kill me.
Yeah.
So they stopped it, and then a few months later, everything was kind of stable, not gone, but stable. And then a few months later, the tumors in the lungs started growing again.
Wow. After all this, after the chemo, after this new treatment.
Yep.
Wow.
So then the new doctor said, well, there's a clinical trial. and you won't pay anything. You just come and we provide everything for you. I said, okay. And I did fine on the clinical trial for about 6 months. And then he told me that the tumors in the lungs were growing and the clinical trial wasn't working. So essentially I got kicked out.
Oh my gosh.
And he told me the best option for me was to have a lobe of my lung removed.
No.
So, so I did do that, but at the time, I had tumors in both lungs. Some of them relatively large. They were going to remove the largest one, but I still had tumors in both lungs, and they had said there's nothing else we can offer you in terms of treatment. And I said, okay, I got to do something here. I need to make a change. So I found somebody who worked in the cannabis industry, and I went and I met with him, and I said, I will do anything. Help me. Like this isn't working, and I'm going to die.
What turned you on to the cannabis? How did that come about? I mean, you've gone through so much already, you know, it's like, okay, this isn't working. What turned that into your mind of going to cannabis at this point?
My sister, actually, she has, taken cannabis before. So she's like, here, go to this guy and he'll help you. And I'm like, okay.
I got a guy.
Yeah, exactly. So I went to the guy, and he was like the most friendly individual, and he just kind of laid it out there. He's like, this is what you have to do. You need to change your diet, and this is how much cannabis you need to take. I said, okay, I will do it.
Did you know much about cannabis at this point? Had you used cannabis yourself, before this, or did you?
I had not, and there's a big stigma about using it, and people that use cannabis or potheads or whatever. And I was like, that's not me.
Yeah.
But I had I had no hope left.
Right.
And so I'm like, what do I have to lose
Right.
by trying this?
Absolutely.
So, so I did.
Wow.
And I started, and there was a little hiccup in the middle. You take two kinds. You take CBD, and then you take a separate THC.
Okay.
So two kinds of oil. And I thought that once you built up a tolerance to the THC, that you didn't need CBD anymore. So I stopped taking the CBD, and then I'm getting a little backtracked here, but the cancer grew again when I stopped taking the CBD.
Oh, wow.
And I called my guy. I said, hey, what the hell? You said this would work. And he's like, no, you have to take both of them together. They work together. I said, oh, okay. So.
And how long had you been taking it? And so you were getting scans regularly then to see this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how long had you been taking the cannabis at that point that they were showing that it had grown again a little bit?
Probably September to maybe January.
Oh, okay, so just a few months.
Mm-hmm.
And so you were taking oil. Do you know how much you were taking each day?
I don't. The guy that I was getting it from just said you take 12 drops, and they're like pin-sized drops, not a lot. And when I was having all the problems, he said you need to increase your dosage to 18 drops. So I was taking 18 drops of oil a day, and then a dropper of the CBD oil before I would take the other oil.
Wow. And then at that point, so you're taking it, and then once you got back on the regular regimen you were supposed to be on, taking both the CBD and THC, how long did you take it, and then what happened after that?
Let's see. I had the surgery in May of 2017, and I was taking it until probably the end of the year. I had a scan in August after the lung surgery, and I hadn't done any kind of Western medicine. It was just diet and cannabis.
Okay. And
the scan showed that all of the tumors in the left lung and the right lung and the neck were gone.
Oh my gosh.
And the only thing I had been doing was diet and cannabis.
That's amazing.
The doctors, they said, oh, well, it's because the treatment we did is working now. I'm like, well, it wasn't working before.
Yeah.
Everything was growing,
Right.
and you said it wasn't working, so why is it working now?
Wow.
So I continued to do that for a while, probably until January of the next year. And then I kind of slowly weaned myself off.
And it's been how long now that you've been cancer-free?
It was 2 years in
Oh
August.
my gosh, congratulations,
Yeah,
Allie.
thank
That
you.
is amazing, and all from this amazing plant. And you listening to yourself, and you listening to what you needed, and just standing up for, no, we need to do this, and you know your body. And that's such a great lesson, right? To stand up for what we know our bodies need, and, you know, reach out until you find the right thing, and you did it. You did that.
Yeah.
And I'm so honored to know you, because you were my inspiration to take RSO when I got diagnosed with cancer. So it's kind of a cool thing that we're sitting here together.
I know, I
you know,
know.
because I'm such a believer in it as well, just for those reasons. So I just want to thank you so much for being here and for sharing your story, and to really just put it all out there. And I just really appreciate that. And to anyone else out there, Allie is just such a wonderful inspiration to us to, you know, listen and learn from our bodies, and then take cannabis and the wonderful things that it does, right?
We've had a number of people tweeting here. I'm sorry to interrupt. I've just been absolutely in awe listening to this story here. And people want to know, is there some way that if they wanted to reach out to, because I'll bet there are a lot of people, young and old, who are feeling helpless and hopeless right now once they hear a cancer diagnosis. And I don't know if you're open to talking with them, or how people can reach you, and or get through MyJane, or through directly. I don't know if you want to give out your direct email or contact info, but somehow if I'd love it if you can find a way that people can connect with you.
Yeah, if anybody would like to get a hold of Allie, or, you know, find out more about her story, you can go ahead and email me at Diane, DIANE, at myjane.com. I am happy to direct you towards her, or towards the right, you know, person that can help you with this, because this is such a powerful subject. And
Can I just tell you, I've sat in this chair for 7 years. I've listened to happy stories, sad stories. Yours is the most inspirational story I have ever heard. And I don't want to get choked up here, but I am so touched that you would come and share this with us. It can't be easy to talk about all this. And yet I'm going to tell you, you're reaching a lot of people right now and helping them. Really.
I really hope so. I want people to realize that when doctors tell you there's no hope, sometimes there is.
right, there is.
There's other options.
You are a standing testament to that.
Well, I hope we'll have more shows like this. I don't know that anything will ever come close to this. You got me all teary-eyed and shook up here, but
Paul doesn't cry either.
no, I don't. I'm a tough Midwestern guy here. There's a very, very inspirational story, and very important story, because I think that's what everybody believes. You know, it wasn't from cannabis, but my late aunt was diagnosed with a rare form of cancer, and she was given 2 years to live, and she lived almost 30 years.
Wow.
So things can happen.
Absolutely.
They
Not always,
definitely
but
can.
they can
I was
happen.
told I was going to die several times, and I said, nope, not today, too young.
Not today.
Yeah,
All right.
And you sit here, and you're beautiful and vibrant and healthy and energetic, and you're just such an
Absolutely.
inspiration. It's amazing.
Thank you.
All right.
Wow.
Thanks so much. How do they reach MyJane? Let's do the wrap up here. You tell everybody about MyJane here.
And thank you for coming today, everybody, and for being a great part of the MyJane community and this wonderful cannabis movement, as we hear the magical stories of cannabis today with Allie. We just really appreciate you listening in. And if you are listening via Apple Podcasts, please rate, review, and subscribe so more people can find out about these wonderful stories. If you do have a story, you can email us at mystory at myjane.com. I got that backwards. And if you would like to learn anything more about MyJane and our community, email us or check out the website at myjane.com. We have some wonderful things going on right now with bringing out new products to everybody. Or you can give us a call at 833-MyJane2 if you'd like to speak to somebody and get some personal attention. We're here to help. We're here to help you own your wellness. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful day. Thank you, Allie.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to MyJane, My Story. If you want to learn more, you can join the MyJane community at myjane.com. Get instant access to our Facebook group, Facebook community, educational resources, and updates on MyJane products and special events. And for personal attention right now, you can also pick up the phone and call 833-MyJane2. That's MyJane2. and speak to your own wellness concierge, because it's time to own your wellness. Be well.